Hi, so you clicked on this video because you want to learn something related to dentistry. Well, you are on the right place. I am Dr. Hina, the voice and soul behind drteeth, and this is the platform where we make learning interesting and incredibly easy for you. So do leave a like and subscribe to my channel, and I will recommend you to join channel membership to watch our premium videos. You can also visit our website for online classes, courses, MCQs. So let's get started. Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to drteeth. Or in case if you're new here, welcome. I am Dr. Hina and I create dental videos with an intention to help dental students, because when I was a student, I could not find good quality videos on the internet, and that made me start this channel, and then slowly and steadily it progressed to such a big platform today. So I'm really thankful to everyone who supported. Now today we are going to start with the mandibular fracture, the basics of the mandibular fracture. So as you can see, these are my drteeth notes. So now in addition to creating videos, I have also started creating notes with the hope that you can download these notes and it will help you revise the concept again without having to watch the video. So let's begin with today's topic. First of all, we are going to see the areas of the mandible that are vulnerable to fracture. So the first one, this is the alveolar bone and the basal bone junction. Then we have the mandibular symphysis. Then we have the parasymphysis region. The region that is adjacent to the symphysis region is the parasymphysis region. Then we have the junction of the body and the ramus. Okay, this is the ramus of the mandible and this is the body of the mandible. So junction between them, there is also a weak point of fracture. Then if you have an impacted molar, that can also weaken the bone and lead to fracture. Then if the root of the canine is too long, then the same thing happens. The bone in that area will get weak and it will be prone to fracture. And also if you see here, the neck of the condyle, that is also the area. So here I have mentioned all of them. Okay, so these are the areas that are vulnerable to fracture. Now one more important question that you might be asked is, what is double fracture? So double fracture is seen on the lateral oblique view radiograph. And why is it seen? As you can see in this image, what happens is the outer cortex will break, then the root will break and the associated structure will break. And then when it goes to the inner cortex, the fracture will be at a different level. So this level, the level at the outer cortex, will be different from the level of the inner cortex, right? So that gives, when you see a radiograph, that is a 2D image. So when you see it, you might seem that there are two fractures, one here, one here. Now we will see the muscle action. Here I have tried to explain. Now the muscles of facial expression which attach to the anterior surface of the mandible, they have no effect. They don't affect the movement of the fragments when there is a mandibular fracture. Now there are few muscles on the inner aspect of the mandible, like the geniohyoid, genioglossus. So what they do, they tend to collapse the fragment posteriorly or medially. Then we have the lateral pterygoid muscle which attaches somewhere here. Now since it attaches near the head of the condyle, it will displace it anteriorly and it may also undergo lateral rotation. Then we have the ramus area. This ramus area, it is influenced by the elevator group of muscles, and the area that is just ahead of the ramus, means if you draw a line at the anterior margin of the ramus or the anterior margin of this masseter muscle, then this area that is anterior to this line, it will be affected by the depressor group of muscles. Okay, so that's about the muscle action. Now, what are the factors which influence the displacement of the mandibular fracture? There are various factors. So we will start from the direction of the force. The direction from which the force is acting, that will influence the displacement of mandibular fracture. For example, if the direction is from front, this will tend to collapse backward, obviously, because if the force is from this side, the fragments will try to get inside. But if the force was, let's say, here or here or here, the fracture and hence the displacement of the fragment will be depending on the direction of the force. Then the area fractured, the direction of the fracture line makes it favorable or unfavorable. So we will see what is favorable fracture or unfavorable fracture as we proceed in the video. Then the muscle pull, obviously, if we have a muscle pull, the fragments will be pulled along with that muscle. And that's what makes a fracture favorable or unfavorable, along with the direction of the fracture line. Then whether teeth is present or not present. If the teeth are present adjacent to the fracture line, they may prevent the fracture displacement since these teeth will contact the opposing teeth. Okay. Now let us suppose we have a fracture here and the teeth are also adjacent to it. Now when the patient bites, when these teeth come in occlusion, it will readjust itself because we have occlusion, right? Also, the soft tissue support left, it defines the displacement. For example, if we have soft tissues holding the fragments together, the displacement will be less. Okay. Now talking about the ramus region, this is the ramus region, right? The ramus region shows minimum displacement in case of comminuted fracture. What is a comminuted fracture? The fracture in which we have multiple fragments of bone. Okay, because the impact is so high, we have a fracture where the bone breaks into multiple pieces. So even in case of comminuted fracture, the ramus shows minimum displacement. Why? Because it is well supported by the masseter and the medial pterygoid muscles. By the way, you can enroll in our Prime tutorials on our website and watch super simplified dental videos. Now let's talk about some of these fractures in general. First of all, we have symphysis fracture. Now if the symphysis fracture is in a straight line, the fragments will be stable. Here we have the geniotubercle muscle which will try to pull, but since the fracture line is straight, it will still be stable. Now if the fracture line is oblique, as you can see here, then there will be medial displacement because of the mylohyoid muscle and also due to the geniotubercle muscles. There will be medial displacement. Now what if the fracture is in the canine region? First of all, a question is why we have more chances of fracture in the canine region. See, first of all, this area, here you can see the bone has a sharp curve here. That is, the bone curves maximum here. So that makes it prone to fracture, and also the area gets weak because of the long root of canine. We have seen in the starting that the canine can have the longest root and such long root can make the bone weak. Now in this case, we have a canine fracture here and we have a canine fracture here. So if the canine fracture is bilateral, then the displacement will be more, and it can be a dangerous situation because the tongue may fall back and obstruct the airway, which can be dangerous. Now this happens because the geniohyoid, genioglossus and anterior belly of digastric is pushed posteriorly. So these muscles, they will get pushed posteriorly and hence the tongue will fall back, and that is a dangerous situation. Now what happens when we have a fracture of the body of mandible? Now here I will be explaining the unfavorable and the favorable fracture. Now here you can see we have this masseter muscle, okay, and the direction of the fracture is like this. Like from the tooth surface, the fracture line is going posteriorly, okay. Now in this case, this entire fragment of the ramus, you can see that, right? It can be easily pulled by this muscle, this masseter muscle. So that is unfavorable. Why we call it unfavorable? Because it is unfavorable for the surgeons, for the dentist, because there is displacement, right? Nuksan zyada ho gaya, there is more damage. So it is unfavorable because the elevator muscles will be able to displace the fracture. Now in this case, if the fracture line is starting from the tooth coming anteriorly, now we have a fragment of the ramus like this. We have the ramus like this. So when this muscle tries to pull it upward, what will happen? This fragment, this portion right here, it won't let this get displaced. So that is a favorable fracture. So favorable because the elevator muscles will not be able to displace the fracture. The anterior segment will obstruct the upward displacement. This anterior segment, it will obstruct the upward displacement. Now another important viva question or a short note question is bucket handle fracture. So the fracture that happens in the edentulous cases is bucket handle fracture. Now what happens is the bone near the molar region, since we have lost our teeth, this region gets atrophied, means the bone gets very thin here. Now such cases can proceed to bilateral fracture. Now when we have a fracture bilaterally in this region, what will happen? This anterior portion, they have a lot of muscles here, so they will act and they will apply forces and it will shift the mandible, the anterior part of the mandible, downward and backward. So these muscles are digastric and the mylohyoid muscles. So if we imagine this to be the container of the bucket, right? And this is the handle of it. Okay, so that is why it is called as the bucket handle fracture.